Greetings and happy Tuesday, everyone. Vince Robinson here, the executive producer of Open Door Live, and I am joined by two guests, two artists that I have been privileged to meet within the past few months. One is named Aawful Aaron, and the other one is Smith Taylor. Aaron is going to be opening a show at moCa Cleveland on Friday. 6:30 p.m. is when it starts. I'm going to let him tell you all about his exhibition. And also, he's going to be welcoming a musician by the name of Smith Taylor. I checked him out on Facebook today. I saw one of his videos, and it's going to be lit. I'll be transparent with you and also let you know that I have other plans for Smith Taylor. I plan to have him on stage with me at Larchmere Arts on Saturday evening. I'm calling it Vince Robinson and the Next Generation. I'm all about connecting the generations, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen when I put my hands on the keys and I welcome a young drummer to my stage, Rashawn Blake. You may be aware of him because he's been performing with me as the Jazz Poets. But we've got all that coming up this weekend. Today, the focus is going to be on these two young men right here. They are Smith Taylor and Aawful Aaron. Welcome to Open Door Live, brothers.
Hey, what's going on?
Okay, so the names are switched up a little bit. On the left is Smith Taylor, and on the right is Aawful Aaron. So Aaron, why don't we start with you? I will let everyone know how we met. There was an exhibition over at May Halls in a space over May Halls. It was the Museum of is Creative Human Art, moCa.
Yes.
And moCa was founded by Antoine Washington, who had an art installation up. It was part of an exhibition staged by moCa Cleveland called Imagine Otherwise. As fate would have it, about that seat at the table ended up at Larchmere Arts. And I can honestly say that the reason that all of this happened is because of you, Aaron. Because I had that conversation with you, and it opened up to me connecting with Antoine and LaTanya Autry, who was responsible for curating that exhibition. And, you know, the rest, as they say, is history. We struck up a conversation. We had a really good conversation. I found out that you were an artist, and you informed me that you were going to be doing a solo exhibition. And now here we are, and you are at moCa Cleveland. So tell us how all of that happened.
Yes, so as you mentioned, Antoine Washington, him and his program, Museum of Creative Human Art, they essentially reached out to me, him and his partner, Mike. They reached out to me about an opportunity regarding essentially wanting to put on for artists in the community and to help out young brothers such as myself. So when we met, we really aligned as far as values and what we wanted to do. They had the platform, and I really just had the drive and the work at the time. So it was one of those situations where I was just very fortunate to meet Antoine and connect with him, and you know, he saw the vision within myself, and I trusted his vision as well with the program, and it ultimately led to this opportunity. He recognized that I had a voice, and that I have something to say, and so they're very fortunate for Antoine Washington and the Museum of Creative Human Arts for, you know, ultimately opening the door to leading the being able to connect with moCa and stuff.
Okay. So while we're at it, let's talk about your connection to the brother that's sitting next to you. You guys seem to be in each other's company quite a bit, and I know you're both creative. So talk about how that relationship materialized.
We giving them the Detroit story?
I mean, we have to now that you mentioned it.
All right. Okay. So me and this guy ended up in Detroit. We had a mutual friend, Gino Wilson, and essentially we'd always hear about each other, and so as fate had it rather, me and him ended up meeting for the first time in Detroit, Michigan, and we were there for a convention. And long story short, like we found out we were both in the city. We linked up, and we basically just started wreaking havoc on Detroit, and that was our introduction to each other.
Yeah.
You kind of like, I don't really believe in like love at first sight, but like this cat right here, I was like, yo, like if I never had a twin brother, I definitely got one now. So it was very natural. And then what made it better is we were both from Cleveland, so it was like we were able to kind of connect there. We spent that weekend or so, whatever, in Detroit, and had a blast, to say the least. I don't want to get nobody in trouble, so I'm gonna just say that. And yeah, we basically brought that relationship back to Cleveland, and literally that first night he had his guitar with him. So I immediately knew he had an interest in guitar, and he was playing and stuff like there in his hotel room, and I'm like, oh yeah, man, this cat is sick. Okay. So fast forward, basically we kept hanging out. We kept kind of just kicking game to each other. I might have got him a few jobs or so, you know. So we just over time, our relationship was able to mature to what it is today, and ultimately us just having a lot of the same values and interests and all of that good stuff that make like those fairy tale friendships. You feel me? We got that, and we possess that, and we look after each other, and ultimately because we believe in each other, and you know, like in this day and age, if you don't really have somebody to champion you to that level, then the days when it's raining and it's storming, man, it get hard. When that umbrella get too heavy for you. So I'm ultimately like thankful to have somebody to to navigate these waters with in this art world. Especially being a person of color, we're up against a lot of different challenges. So to have a partner in crime is always great.
Hey.
Okay, so you are a visual artist and he's a musician. Tell us about your entry, your space in the art ecosystem. What are you up to, Mr. Smith Taylor?
Right. So I actually I play guitar. I've been playing since I was 15. I'm 27 years old now. So what is that? What is that? 12 years now that I've been playing. Right.
Yeah, that's 12.
Right. So yeah, I just really I started out with lessons, and then I really just kind of, I think after the first year I started picking it up on my own. It was kind of moving a little bit slow for me, and I haven't put the guitar down since. Since then, I mean, when I was in college, I had another little group that I had started when we started to play like original music, and we started to, we started to make a name for ourselves among like the local venues like Happy Dog and Beachland, Grog Shop, like in Cleveland. That project lasted about 4 years, and then at a certain point, we got to a point there was about 7 members in the band, and we got to a point where it was just like I felt like I wanted more. I wanted to put more energy into the project, and there was just some differences of opinion. So I was writing a lot of the songs, so I kind of decided that if I'm really gonna do this, I want to put the pedal to the metal, and I want to put all my energy into it. So if I'm going to write these songs, I want to know that they're being taken care of, So I ended up, the group ended up, disbanding, and I ended up starting this solo project about 3 years ago. I would say around like the January of 2020. So it's 2021 now, so 2018. And yeah, I've been behind the scenes for like these 3 years of writing these songs, recording these songs, throwing my hands up, and then starting all over. I did that like 3 times. But I just recently dropped my first record after 3 years. That's available online for streaming on my Bandcamp, Smith Taylor Sounds. And I've been able to, in those 3 years working behind the scenes, I've been able to just build up like my repertoire of finished songs. So I'm just looking to go to the next level. I'm looking to see the world. You know, I'm looking to get this music out and this art out, and tell this story. Just similar to my man's here.
Okay. So you got your first solo project out, and then the man that's on your side is also embarking upon his first solo exhibition. Aaron, tell us about this exhibition. What's in it, and how is it that it's your first?
Yes. So basically, this will be my first solo show to the degree of it being displayed in a official gallery. Some people know I had a solo show, or like a showing in a boutique store called Nova on the West Side back in the day, but this will be like my first official, like I said, recognized art show. I'll be displaying some pieces that I worked on this past year. All of the art will be new. I'm speaking on mental health, and I'm using sports as like a metaphor, or as a vessel to deliver the message and hope to spark conversation amongst the community. Really, the work itself, I'm really personally excited for, because I feel like it's my most sincere work yet, and it really helped me. And as far as it helped me kind of make sense and deal with things, and almost in a therapeutic sense, and it was something that naturally didn't feel like man, I shouldn't share this. But then I also realized, that's very much a part of my responsibility as a contemporary artist, is to tell stories and to put that kind of stuff out there. So this will be my first show, and I think it'll really I'll just say I'm looking forward to my next show already.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to tell you, as an artist who's lived in this community for over 30 years, it's really a huge thing to do your first solo show in an institution like moCa. The museums typically and traditionally exclude folks who are local. So for you to be where you are in your career as an artist and to have a show in an institution like moCa is not a small thing. It's a huge thing. So I want to congratulate you on that. In terms of opening doors, what are your thoughts about what this exhibition means for other artists in this city?
So it's interesting that you asked that, because as I did quite a few works there on site at the museum, and as I was in that institution working, I thought about what it is I was actually doing, and the fact that I came from an environment that the last thing I would have thought I would have been doing was actually painting in the museum, So understanding that what Antoine and Mike represent with the Museum of Creative Human Art, and with this partnership, ultimately is going to introduce and is being able to open the doors for a lot of people coming from our communities to have aspirations to be contemporary artists or musicians or you know, to really open those doors, and more specifically to me. And what this opportunity will mean is that there'll be more artists of color in institutions like this. There'll be more younger artists embraced in general and encouraged to, you know, pursue their ideas and to stand behind the message and to ultimately speak on something with their art. I'm excited to see, just from my perspective, I know there's a lot of guys right now that are doing amazing things in like the contemporary art space, like my young homie TJ, who you know is recognized by Cleveland Institute of Art recently, and you know for guys like that, I'm just super excited for it, because ultimately, like, what Antoine vision is to make it easier for guys like me and TJ, and that's exactly what him and Mike is doing. And for me to be the first artist in this opportunity, I'm beyond grateful for. It's really just one of those situations where, like, my years of hard work and kind of being trained and you know, having a discipline in art came at a crossroad with this moment, and I was ready for the opportunity, and it developed into something where, you know, this Friday I'm very confident in saying that July 16th we're gonna make history, and it's gonna be huge, you know, for the youth.
Yeah. Can I add something to that?
Please do.
Yeah, so pursuing art, you know, I've been playing in bands for about the last like 5-6 years or so in Cleveland. And you get to a point where it's easy to become like a hometown hero here. You get with the infrastructure that is a lot, you know, that is, I don't know, afforded to you. You know, there's a whole lot of, you know, recycle. You go to the same venues, you kind of get in the circulation of doing like some of the same events, and you build up a name for yourself amongst the locals. But when you want to go further, you know, you realize, oh, it's harder than you know. It's when you get to a point where you start to get jaded and you want to grow. And then you realize, yo, I can't really do it just depending on the infrastructure that is here right now. You know, I'm getting low payouts at these shows, like, or I'm not getting any payouts at these shows, or there just aren't the right kind of opportunities. That there's no resources as far as press or you know, record labels or, you know, lawyers like that cater to like the entertainment field here in Cleveland. So I think that, like, with the vision that we have, you know, as young Black creatives, as young Black artists, we love Cleveland because we were able to become, you know, we were able to get to this point because of like the city that fosters authenticity. But we want to be able to be instrumental in creating that infrastructure that allows artists to flourish, that allows artists to, you know, to from Cleveland specifically, to compete with the rest of the world. Because I truly believe that anything that you can source creatively or seek creatively, internationally speaking, can be sourced right here in Cleveland.
Yeah. Cleveland is definitely a place where there is an abundance of talent. You know, what I hear from a lot of musicians is that they feel as though they need to leave in order to create credibility for themselves as artists. And I think, you know, another issue that we're facing is that our audiences don't always fully support artists to the extent that they should. You know, I speak as someone who manages a venue, but also as a musician. And I can tell you how frustrating it is for people to want you to do gigs, but the audiences are not really providing enough financial support. You have bar owners who exploit musicians for their opportunity for exposure, but then they don't really put any money on the table to support them, and then they don't promote the shows that they're doing and so forth and so on. So basically what they expect to happen is for you to bring your following into their venue, and then they make money on drinks and food, and then you come in and you pour your heart out, and then you walk away with an empty feeling because something about that equation, just doesn't add up correctly. So many musicians end up going to places like New York and then coming back to Cleveland.
Right.
But after you have that New York experience, you're perceived a little bit differently. You get respect just based on the fact that your pedigree includes that experience. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, so to speak, and you're the same person that you were when you left.
Yeah.
So what changed about your talent? You still have the same talent, but all of a sudden now they see you differently. Do you think that it's feasible for you to enjoy the success that you desire by being a Cleveland-based artist?
What do you, I guess I don't really understand the question.
If I think I understand. I think he's saying, like, basically, do we think we can get our bags here?
Oh, yeah.
In a sustainable way.
So what I really feel like is, okay, if you want to be a session player, if you want to be the player that is like, that gets hired on tours, or this does like these cover bands, or you want to be working like that, then yeah, you might need to go to places where there are resources, like you could be a studio musician and make a living. But if you wanted to be an artist, I feel like Cleveland is it's a warehouse of artists. Like we build artists, and so it's just like, it's crazy to think about, like, all the most talented people that I can think of, like as far as career wise, that I want to be like, are the people that I work closest with, the people that that I have been seeing, that I've been watching grow, like the people that I feel like, or the artists that I feel like Cleveland made believe that it really took more talent than anything else to make it. I feel like Cleveland ended up making just this gigantic community of artists who, like, have a hard time believing in themselves. So they just work at their craft. They just work and they do it just for love. They do it for the respect, So I think that, like, if we just, with a little self-awareness and a little, like I said, having that infrastructure that supports you, that says that they believe in what you're doing and believe in what you're saying, something that can all connect us all as well. That could be like a hub for us. Like, if you're coming through Cleveland, then I need you. You gotta work with Aaron, for art, and then you gotta go to, you gotta come to my studio to record, and you gotta ask, Kip Stone for a verse, because, he's hot from Cleveland. Like, if we all were in our bags together, then it's undeniable that, like, if you were coming through here, that you couldn't pass up on an opportunity to work with, an artist like.
And so to add on to what you're saying as well, is, like, I think it's not exclusively different to me and my peers, but I think what is happening right now in the stream of time, and it's like the domino, well, everyone is kind of in their individual field and pocket, kind of, doing the work, planting their seeds. In my particular case, me having the opportunity via the Museum of Creative Human Arts allowed me to have the light then shined on me, and then now I can then use some of that light to shine that on, like, the bigger the bigger thing that is this creative Cleveland new wave that's going on right now. And I also would like to say to that, we recognize our responsibility because of that, and that, in the past, a lot of opportunity has missed us as a city because we weren't as organized or we weren't as in sync with each other that we could have to really seize that larger opportunity there. So it's kind of like everybody, is out for themselves, and it's like you know, that's cool. But like, if you want to go fast, but if you want to go far, really believe that you have to work together. So, um, just as simple as having a collective is me, my homie Smith Taylor, my homie Nix, uh, and so many other like-minded individuals who are extremely, extremely talented. We all are coming with a tribe mentality, so to speak, and we really want to change that narrative for Cleveland. We want to change the narrative of Cleveland from being like a city that's super hard to maneuver and work together, to it almost being compared to Atlanta during like the Outcast era, or compared to any moment in time that's like a renaissance of its sorts, because that's what's going on in Cleveland right now. It's a renaissance.
I think the evidence of progress is what you're expressing to me right now. And I recall in our very first conversation, I picked up this idea that you have an interest in collaboration. The fact that Smith Taylor is going to be part of what happens on Friday, again, is the evidence of that. The connection that you have with Antoine is the evidence of that. And things that Antoine has shared with me support exactly what you're saying. What you're talking about in terms of this siloed existence that artists have, and this close to the vest, I'm keeping all the secrets, I'm not letting you about the opportunities. I think that's one of the things that's symptomatic of some of the older generation of artists that exist in this city. Could you talk about perhaps the divide between the older generation and the younger generation when it comes to being organized and being involved in arts and culture in Cleveland and Cuyahoga County?
Yeah. So I would say I have two experiences with that. Or I've experienced both sides, because I know for me personally, and I think Braxton can agree with this, we're very personable. So I think that kind of separates us from maybe some of our peers who might not be so open to talking to older ones for just to connect with them. But I've also seen um, it where some older ones kind of don't they kind of are hesitant to likewise reach out to younger ones to kind of share that wisdom that they have, because of maybe a bad experience or what have you, or just kind of just being defeated by Cleveland. Because I feel like that can happen if you've been around the scene long enough, and you carry resentment. You're not gonna really want to talk to a guy like me who has a output that is very far from that narrative that one might carry. So, but also, me and Braxton, we experienced guys like Antoine Washington who shared that evidence, or I'm sorry, they shared their knowledge in abundance, and it's evident that they want to help. It's guys like R.A. Washington, same thing. These are like our OGs, like, and like that is ultimately a term of endearment now, because it's like they've been around long enough, they made it as Black men in this system that literally preys on us. So it's like the fact that we have them around is like more than precious, because that's straight benefit for guys like him and I, like we don't that's saving so many years of just having to learn stuff the hard way, because we're able to get gains straight from the fountain, like that. And a lot of guys a lot of our peers aren't in our position because they fail to make these relationships happen. They fail to reach out to these people. They're scared, you know. And then likewise, it's like I would imagine that it's a mutual thing. Like, you know, guys like me and Braxton, I'm sorry, guys like, you know, me and my man's over here, like we making guys that believe in us and that's giving us this game. We making it easy for them to carry that torch because, you know, we likewise see the responsibility. So it's like it's not something that we take lightly. And, you know, it's gonna come that day where we're gonna have to do the same thing. So our whole vision is to get started on that early. It's to force the change by being the artists that these venues and these galleries have to turn to. Ultimately realizing that as artists, we have to operate as business is as you know, creatives with a value, you know, and we have leverage in these venues. And like you said, well, I'm sorry, I won't get too ahead of myself, but really ultimately just, you know, I want to highlight the point of just between the generations, it's so much, you know, knowledge that can be shed in that, in between that. So for the older, you know, for the older creatives, the older, you know, Black creatives, to us that influenced a lot of our moves and help us kind of navigate the waters. We wouldn't be here today if it weren't for individuals like that. But then on the other side, like I've seen individuals not be able to get, you know, farther because they don't, you know, put the energy into those relationships. So, you know, I really encourage both older artists and younger artists to, you know, to seek out each other, to, you know, to forge relationships, because it's like, you know, that lifeline, that energy flows both ways. And, you know, it takes a very secure artist to collaborate. And I feel like we are all in a space where we should be able to recognize that there's enough space here at the table for everybody to eat.
Yes, absolutely. There's enough space for everybody. And I think, as you pointed out, there's also opportunities for folks on both sides to learn. You know, I happen to know that young folks have an affinity to technology, you know, and some of us in the older generation, we struggle with technology. So we need your help with that. And then you can use the benefit of our experiences, you know, the benefit of our relationships. You know,
Yes.
I know people who can open doors. But if we don't have that connection, then we can't open those doors. So there has to be a willingness on both parts. But I also think there has to be a certain level of acceptance. You know,
Yeah.
if I see you walking down the street and your pants are sagging, I can rush to a conclusion about that. But when I do that, I've made a judgment of you without really fully knowing who you really are. And the fact of the matter is, you're an extremely talented person with all those skills and all those abilities that I failed to recognize because I've rushed to judgment just based on your appearance. And one thing that I've learned in life is that you can't judge a book by its cover. So, you know, and I also realized that at one point I was young too. So there was a point when I had hair that was as big as his. And I had an Afro pick stuck in my head, and my mother didn't like that. And I thought it was cool. I didn't see anything wrong with it. But my mother was also realizing that I might miss out on opportunities because of my appearance.
Yeah.
You know, so it's accepting the wisdom that comes from the elders, and you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, you know. But the real truth of the matter, gentlemen, is that the real change that occurs in our society, it comes from people who are in your age range. Because when you look at this spectrum of life, you may not have that 3-car garage and the Lexus in the garage and the wife and 4 kids and the job that you've been in for 20 years that is at risk if you step out and say something that goes against the grain. You see, and your art is a reflection of your ability to push back on the things that are oppressing us as people in this country and in this nation and around the world. And so because you don't have those things to sacrifice, then you don't have anything to lose by being who you are. You see? So real change comes from those who are willing to put themselves on the line, and you're willing to do that, you know. And I just keep coming back to the evidence, the receipts. You will hang your paintings, or you've hung your paintings in that museum, and people can come in and see what comes from here and not be distracted by pants that might be a little bit farther down than us older guys would do. You know, we put the belt around the waist and we use the belt to hold the pants up. I looked out the window today, and I hope my neighbor doesn't watch this because, he probably won't. But I just noticed him, and his pants were down a little bit far, but then he had on these, I'm just gonna say they were underwear, and they were like, if you were a fashion model, that's what you would wear, because there was coordination. It was bright, it was colorful, it was festive, you know, and of course it's going to draw your attention there. But you know, this is him being fashionable. This may not necessarily be him going out there advertising because he wants to get with another brother. And I know that he ain't into that because his girl lives with him and they in the same house. So we can that mystery. But I guess what I'm driving at is that we have to be willing to give up these misconceptions and this misunderstanding that we have about young folk, because at one point we were young too, and we did those same kinds of things that rubbed our parents the wrong way, you know, and it really did diminish our skills and abilities. And obviously both of you have them. We've talked about your art a little bit. I want to give Smith Taylor an opportunity to talk about his. I know that you're a musician, and the imagery that I saw in the band that you were performing with had kind of I don't want to put you in a box, but you know, it seemed as though you might have been channeling Hendrix or somebody like that. So you might be on that level, but I also understand that you have a connection to jazz and improvisational music. So I'm looking forward to that dimension of Smith Taylor, or maybe it will be the other guy that shows up that night. Maybe it might be Smith Taylor, it might be, you know, Braxton channeling, who can I think of? Paul Jackson Jr. or somebody like that. We'll see. But what are you doing musically now? You said you had a solo project. What lane are you traveling in right now?
My own. And I'm super stoked about that. I feel like, as far as like who I'm trying to be sonically, is a combination of all the places and the places that I've lived in, all the experiences that I've had as a, you know, a young Black boy who moved out to the burbs, you know, who then moved back to the hood, who moved back to the burbs, who went to college, who was, you know, very religious, who was out here, you know. I think that, like, getting into the guitar, like when I was 15, picking up the guitar, when I discovered Jimi Hendrix, everything changed. Then it was like, oh yeah. And I had looked up to Hendrix. You know, he was the ultimate deity to me. He was the God. He was the one that could do no wrong. This, like, you know, he was dead, but he was immortal, you know, to me. And at 27 years old, now I can see that actually, you know, when he died, man, he was a baby who didn't actually really know anything. And the only reason I know it now is because I'm 27 and I know that I really don't know anything, you know? So it feels like, yeah, I do want to be like Hendrix. I want to be myself. You know, I want to be as honest as possible. And that's why you know, it was figures like him, or these artists like, you know, Prince, or, you know, Miles Davis, or Kurt Cobain, or Amy Winehouse, or any of these artists who, like, they have like this image that's larger than life. But it's like the thing that we really respect about them the most is that they come off as genuine, they come off as authentic. So like my sound, I want it to be authentic to my experience, my Black experience of growing up like in the hood, you know, being raised on jazz, R&B, hip hop, to growing up, to going out and, you know, living out in Streetsboro, where I was exposed to, you know, the pop rock, like all that, the emo, Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and all that stuff. And then kind of just like when you open your mind to something, then it's like, oh man, like I can enjoy this on the same level that I enjoy this hip hop stuff. I can enjoy rock on the same level or on the same wavelength that I enjoy jazz. But like the spirit of it all. So yeah, I, as far as just like my artistry and like my sound goes, it's really just me trying to write the best songs and trying to not focus on necessarily being so original and making something new, but putting my vision on putting my spin on like a punk song, putting my spin on a trap song, putting my spin on a soul R&B song, putting my spin on an Aretha Franklin type, you know.
It's a story.
Yeah, and sonically, I'm really just trying to tell my story, and it can't be put in a box.
Yeah. You know, I so relate to what you just said. One of my, I'm not going to call it a struggle because it's not a struggle, but one of the issues that I've had as a musician in this town is conforming to what everybody does, you know, and what you have in this town is a lot of folks who play other people's music. So when you go out and you hear live performances, you hear a lot of cover tunes, you hear people doing what other people have done, and you hear them trying to do it exactly the same way that they did it, you know. Yeah. But what I hear from you is you have a desire not to be Hendrix, but to be the best you.
Yeah.
Because Hendrix was Hendrix and you are you. And I relate to that in the sense that I could never be Herbie Hancock. You know, I could never be some of those guys that I've looked up to and idolized, and even to a certain extent mimicked in certain ways by playing their music. But what I like to do is create my own. I also like to take what they've done and, like you said, put my spin on it. So, for example, Saturday night, you know, we're going to do this Masquerade. It's a Leon Russell tune that was popularized by George Benson. But when we come to the vamp, it's going to be VR's vamp. It's not going to be Leon Russell's vamp. It's not going to be George Benson's vamp. It's going to be where I take it based on my interpretation of the chords that I relate to that song. And so I'm really looking forward to hear what you do with that, because I want to make space in that for you to express yourself. You know, about Cleveland musicians, you know, I don't want to sweep with a big broom or paint with a wide brush or anything like that. But, you know, one thing that I've noticed in some of the performances that I've attended is that as musicians, we don't really listen to each other because everybody is so concerned about being heard.
Yeah.
And what happens is you have a whole bunch of people who are talking at the same time, talking loud, and it just sounds like confusion because we don't give each other space. You know, you got to give others space and let them say what they have to say. You know, that's what soloing is about.
Oh,
it's your turn. What you got to say, go ahead and say it. You know, and then we all come together and we make something harmonious that's not based on the light shining on anyone specifically, but everybody having this nice conversation where we can speak in unison, or we can speak in tongues, or we can speak however we want to speak, but it makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
yeah, man. I think that like my favorite part about music right now, and creating and playing, one of two of my favorite things is respecting the space and using that, treating that space just like any other instrument and playing around it and finding like a pocket so that you can stay in your lane, so to speak, and the way to find a pocket is you have to listen, and you have to be present in the moment, and you have to service the song, so it's like, sometimes the best way for the guitar to service the song is just to lay back and chill, play some long chords and provide that like atmosphere, that provide that ambience, for the man's on the sax, or like the keys for Vince Robinson to come through, so that.
Yeah. And it's very similar in the art world too, but it's a visual thing, right? So it's like a lot of artists aren't looking at each other's artworks, They aren't really seeing it. And I mean, seeing art is so very subjective to the viewer, like there's levels of appreciation that it takes. Similar thing with music, like in order to really hear a track, you have to have appreciation for what's going on. So like, it's Cleveland is an interesting space because, like you said, you nailed it. Everybody is playing so hard or painting so hard that like they don't see what's going on, and because they don't see what's going on, they can't really be as effective in that space. Whereas if you're in your own lane, like what we're really trying to encourage and push, like those are the individuals who ultimately have to feel like they leave here, like the Kid Cudis and the MGKs, and I can go down that whole list of people who weren't really embraced by Cleveland until after they left for whatever reasons. But I can say the difference this time is that we're turning that awareness on the inside, and even if we just have to just start amongst, just me and my friends, and like, we're really trying to champion being an example. And we have great examples to follow because we have, those older peers who can kind of give us their experience, and we can kind of take that and do it better. But not to derail too much, but like, it's like we have to really see each other. We have to really hear each other to know that what our message is, it has a place in the overall thing that's occurring here. And until we respect each other and give each other that space and kind of just be like, okay, it's my man Aaron's time to talk. We just gonna get behind that. That's what this moCa and Museum of Creative Human Art coming together. That's what that is. It's them. It's spaces getting behind this thing. Cuyahoga County Cultural Arts, like everybody who helped this thing come together. That's why this moment is going to be so important, because it'll be the first example of that, and hopefully other institutions notice this, and they're able to follow suit, and that just becomes the new norm.
Yes. So I just got to put this out here. I'm also going to be part of an opening on Friday. We got two openings on the same day. And not only will I be displaying art, but I'm going to be performing musically as well. But I firmly expect that I'll be able to saunter on down to moCa to see your exhibition and hear my man's play. And then, of course, we're going to hook up on that Saturday. For those who weren't able to hear it at the front end, could you talk about the exhibition Friday and give us the particulars on that so that folks know?
Yes, absolutely. So this Friday at the Museum of Contemporary Art down on Euclid, the big, beautiful black building there, that sits right at the corner. We are going to have opening at night, which will include sounds by DJ Knickknack, performance by Lorene Chia, and my man Smith Taylor, and his band will be out. They'll play. They'll go live. We'll have a food truck there. Food provided by Mo Bites. I'm sorry, Museum of Creative Human Art. They'll be presenting this whole thing. This is a new partnership between them and moCa. And also, shout out to Spaces for the Urgent Art Fund as well, and their partners. But this Friday, you can come down to my opening. You can also see the work from. I can't remember the name of the artist that'll be displaying upstairs, but if you head over to moCaCleveland.com, you can get all of the details for essentially this block party. Also, you can come see work by the artists in residency. And yeah, it'll be a good time. Very excited.
Okay. What we'll do when this broadcast concludes is we'll put up a link for moCa Cleveland on the YouTube page and the Facebook page. I see that you have a website also. When it's ready, just let me know and I'll connect it to the Facebook page so folks will be able to reach you that way. Smith Taylor, is there anything that you want to kick out there in terms of social media contacts or ways that folks can reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm Smith Taylor Sounds across the board on Instagram and Facebook, and Venmo and Cash App too, which are the most important. But yeah, Smith Taylor Sounds.bandcamp as well. If you would like to support me and purchase my first record, my debut album, the best way to support me would be using that Bandcamp, as I would see the most percentages of sales. And especially on Bandcamp Fridays, where it's even greater, the profits going to artists are even greater. So if anybody would like to, support me at this time like that, I would be greatly appreciated. I am in the works of a website, and that will be launching. If you want to follow me on Smith Taylor Sounds on Instagram, you would definitely be the first to know there. And yeah, but you can also, if you don't want to support me, then I will remember that. But you can also go to Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, Amazon Music, all of the streaming services. You can start listening to that album now.
Okay.
And that's I'm sorry, Aawful Aaron on all of the socials. 2 A's, Aawful, 2 A's and Aaron. AawfulAaron.com will launch soon, and yeah, we'll me and him and our friend Nix, we're working on a lot of stuff, so we'll have more information on what we plan to do here soon too, so everyone can stay on the lookout for that as well.
Okay. Well, again, I want to commend you all for joining me tonight. It's been a really rewarding conversation for me. And as you know, it's my mission to help wherever I can. I spend a lot of time in closed rooms with folks from CAC and other organizations. The executive director from Spaces was a part of the team that I worked with to try to carve out some solutions for artists in Cleveland. And I do think that we are gaining some traction. I mean, the fact that you are going to be opening a show this Friday, and I'm going to be part of another show just down the street at the Sculpture Center is, it's evidence that things are moving in a particular direction. I think that we have to really work on maintaining this momentum. George Floyd's murder woke up a lot of people last summer, and I think that some folks might go back to sleep, but we got to keep making noise so that they don't go back to sleep. So, You know, you do it with your paintings, Aaron, and Smith Taylor, you do it with your guitar, and I'll do it with the microphone and my piano. And we gonna keep making noise until they stop.
Absolutely. Keep
All right.
that alarm ringing.
No turning back now.
Yeah, no turning back now. We got to press forward and do what we got to do to move the needle and trust the needle is moving it. And I just have to say this. It's really heartening to know that we can have these conversations, you know, and these aren't the kinds of conversations that you're going to get 100, 200 people looking at YouTube or Facebook at any one time, because this is some heady intellectual stuff, you know, and people, they don't want to think, they just want to be fed things. But that's where our responsibility as artists come in, because we got to give them something else to feed on. Mm-hmm. So let's do our part in replacing the brainwash with things that will add and edify the brain as opposed to taking it away. Antoine's exhibition was phenomenal. You know, I was blessed to be able to see it because it was in my space. I saw it in both spaces. I saw the installation at moCa. What that brother did with that chip, man, that was, you know, that was some otherworldly stuff. You know?
That was cold, yeah.
You know, and it was, I mean, when you talk about anti-blackness being exposed, there it was right in your face, you know. So we just have to keep doing what we do as creatives. You know, creatives are responsible for all of the progress that happens in this world. People want to call it law. They want to say that law is responsible. No, it ain't the law. Yeah, it's the people who make things and who make things work. So keep doing what you do. You know, we'll have future conversations. We'll bring other folks into this conversation, and we'll keep doing what we can to liberate our people, because that's what it's all about. It's about liberating our minds, because our minds are what are in bondage right now anyway. The real war, and I'm just going to put it out there, World War III started last year. Mm-hmm. We're in the midst of it right now. We're soldiers in that war, and we got to fight a good fight to get our minds right. That's kind of poetic.
That was a banger.
Bar.
Yeah, bars. I got a few of those too. I used to do hip hop once upon a time, and I just do a little bit of it now.
I'll be your cover art. It's on the house.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna hold you to that.
All right.
All right. Thank you for joining me on Open Door Live. It's been a pleasure, and again, I look forward to future conversation, and I'm especially looking forward to hearing what this brother does with my chord progressions. I know it's going to be magic. And Aaron, I will see you at the Museum of Contemporary Art on Friday evening, and I'll take in your artwork in all its glory.
Yes, sir. Appreciate
all
you.
Right. All right. Peace, blessings,
and
later. Prosperity.
Yes, sir.
All right. And we'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right. Namaste.
For the live to go out.
I'm supposed to say